Once upon a time, in the dusty streets of Enugu, two girls lived as inseparable as the threads in a finely woven cloth. Amaka and Ezin weren't born from the same womb, but everyone called them twins. See how they move together, people would say. If you see one, the other isn't far behind. Amaka was bold and cheerful, a light that brightened every room she entered. Ezina, on the other hand, was quiet, her presence like a shadow that loyally followed her friend. They shared everything, clothes, food, even their deepest secrets. When Amaka dreamed of a life in the big city, Ezine dreamed right alongside her. "Don't worry, Ezzy baby," Amaka would say, holding her friend's hand when things got tough. "Our time will come." But as the years rolled by, life began to favor Amaka in ways Ezine could only dream of. Amaka secured a job with an oil company, rented a beautiful apartment in Lagos, and even found the kind of man every woman prayed for. A tall, dark, and responsible man named Chidi. Meanwhile, Ezin remained in Enugu, teaching at a poorly paid private school and watching her dreams slip further away. One evening, Ezin's phone rang. It was Amaka. Her voice was full of excitement. "Ezzy baby, guess what?" Amaka's laughter sparkled through the line. "What is it, Amaka?" Ezina asked, already knowing it would be something good. "He proposed. I'm getting married." Amaka's laughter rang like a melody. "You'll be my maid of honor, right?" Ezin's heart sank, but she forced a smile. "Of course," she said, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. But when the call ended, Ezin sat quietly in her small room, staring at the peeling walls. "Why is it always her?" she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. That night, as the stars glittered outside her window, Ezina lay awake, consumed by envy and a growing bitterness she couldn't shake. A few months later, Amaka called again with a request. "Ezzy, my landlord increased the rent overnight. I can't afford to stay here anymore. Chidi says I should move in with him until we're married, but you know how people talk. I need you to come stay with me, just for a few months." Ezin froze, living with Amaka and Chidi, watching their love unfold every day. Her chest tightened, but she couldn't say no. Refusing would only make her look jealous, and she couldn't let Amaka suspect. "Okay," she said softly after a long pause. "I'll come." 2 days later, she packed her bag with a heavy heart. "Can I really do this?" she whispered to herself, praying for strength. The journey to Lagos was long and tiring, but her thoughts kept her company, swirling like leaves caught in a storm. When she arrived at Amaka's apartment, Amaka greeted her with a warm hug. "Ezzy baby, welcome to Lagos." Chidi stood behind her, smiling politely. "It's good to see you again," he said. The apartment was beautiful, just as Ezin had imagined. But as she looked around, she noticed the small signs of Amaka and Chidi's love. Photos on the walls, his shoes neatly beside hers, and a mug that read, "Forever yours." That first night, Ezin sat alone in her room, listening to their laughter from the living room. Her heart felt heavy. "This will be harder than I thought," she whispered, blinking back tears. Living with Amaka and Chidi was like sitting by a warm fire, but feeling the heat burn your skin. Each morning, Chidi brought Amaka breakfast in bed, their love a daily reminder of what Ezine lacked. Yet, she noticed small cracks in their perfect picture. Amaka's temper flared occasionally, snapping at Chidi over minor things. Chidi in turn suggested she stay home more often, his tone firm but calm. Ezine began planting seeds of doubt. "Amaka, maybe you should be more patient with Chidi. Men don't like to feel unappreciated." Amaka brushed it off with a laugh, but Ezine's subtle words continued to chip away at their bond. Her bitterness grew, hidden behind kind smiles and soft words. She wasn't just a shadow anymore, she was learning how to cast her own. One evening, Ezin stepped into the living room wearing a tight-fitting dress that shimmered under the soft light. She sat closer to Chidi than necessary, her voice soft and sweet. "You're such a good man, Chidi. Amaka is lucky to have you." Chidi cleared his throat, uncomfortable, and stood up. "I'll go check on dinner," he said, leaving quickly. Ezine didn't stop there. Her actions became bolder, her intentions clearer. Chidi grew distant, avoiding her when he could, but she persisted. Her jealousy had grown into something darker, a storm brewing in the corners of their home. Chidi couldn't bear it any longer. One evening, he confronted Amaka. "There's something I need to tell you. Ezine's behavior makes me uncomfortable." Amaka frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "She's been acting differently around me, wearing revealing clothes, sitting too close. I think she's trying to get my attention in ways that aren't right." Amaka's expression darkened. "Ezine, my best friend, my sister? You must be misunderstanding her." Later that night, Amaka confronted Ezine. "Chidi says you've been behaving inappropriately around him. What's going on?" Ezine gasped, tears welling up. "Amaka, how could Chidi say such a thing? I would never do that to you. You're my sister, my everything." Amaka softened. "I told him he must be mistaken. I just needed to hear it from you." But while Amaka comforted her, Ezine's mind raced. Chidi had dared to expose her. Her tears dried quickly, her resolve hardening. "If he wants a war, I'll give him one," she thought. The fire of jealousy now burned fiercely within her, and she vowed to remove Amaka from the picture, no matter the cost. Ezine's plan began to take shape, each step carefully calculated. She started with subtle gestures, planting doubt in Amaka's mind. "Amaka, don't you think Chidi has been acting a bit distant lately?" she asked one afternoon, her tone casual but probing. Amaka frowned, brushing off the comment, but Ezine noticed the flicker of uncertainty in her friend's eyes. Then, Ezine began to isolate Amaka from her other friends. "You know, Nkechi said some things about you last week that didn't sit right with me," she lied, watching Amaka's reaction closely. Amaka's laughter was more forced, her interactions more reserved. But Ezine's jealousy wasn't content with whispers and half-truths. One evening, she overheard Chidi on a phone call. "I'll be home soon," he said, his tone warm. Ezine saw her chance. She slipped into Amaka's room and placed a faint smudge of lipstick on Chidi's collar, carefully angling it to seem accidental. When Chidi returned, Amaka noticed it instantly. "What is this?" she demanded, holding up the shirt. Chidi frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The lipstick," Amaka said, her voice trembling. "Who was it, Chidi?" Chidi's confusion turned to frustration. "Amaka, you know I would never cheat on you." The argument escalated, and Ezine listened from the next room, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. The cracks in their relationship were widening, and she was ready to push them further apart. But what Ezine didn't realize was that the fire she had ignited was growing beyond her control, threatening to consume everything in its path.